Welcome to the Guided Podcast, where we support you to find the courage to listen and act. I'm Amanda Goolsby, and with me is
Ali Katz.
Let's get started.
This is Ali, and I am here today to share with you as many of the choice points as I can looking back so that together we can look at where I was guided to listen and act, so that you can begin to see where you are also being guided to listen and act. Why would I be looking at it for a church? I was raised Jewish. I was raised to believe that God was for stupid people. My dad believed that, and my grandmother on my mom's side believed that. So why would I be looking for a church? And yet it was very clear that I was looking for a church. There was this persistent message coming through: find a church, find a church, find a church. What? What kind of church? How am I going to find a church? But okay. But before we could find a church, we found a preschool for our daughter, and it was a parent participation co-op. And this was really important because I was so lonely. I didn't have any idea how to make friends in real life. I had made all these friends online in this Yahoo group. We didn't have Facebook back then. We didn't have Instagram, but we had Yahoo discussion boards. And I had found my way to the November 99 Moms Yahoo group, discussion group. And I had made friends with women all across the US and Canada who were giving birth in November 99 and participating in this Yahoo discussion board. We still somewhat follow each other to this day and the lives of the children that we all had at the same time. And I guess that was a guided choice too, to find those women. But I didn't know how to find women in real life. I would go to the beach with my husband and my daughter on the weekends and see all these families together, and I didn't know how to become part of those families that were playing together. I didn't know how to break in. I didn't know how to connect. I had no idea. And it would take a long time for me to figure that one out. And I look forward to helping you to figure it out sooner if you're also in that situation. I think I mentioned in the prior episode, I'm probably neurodivergent. We didn't have words for it back then. And probably I have not been diagnosed, but certainly somewhere on the spectrum from ADHD to autism, within that range. And, ADHD to Asperger's to autism. I think, I'll call that the spectrum. And I'm somewhere in there. And so it was really just, I didn't know how to navigate the social dynamics. So when we found this parent participation co-op, I was so excited because that meant that when I went to work every day, my husband could go to meet other parents. And I really, really, really desired him to make friends. And before that occurred, he would call me and I'd be at work pumping milk for our daughter, and he would call me and I'd hear her screaming in the background. And it was so hard. It's like, he just needs friends. Back then, there was not a lot of stay-at-home dads. We were pioneers in that in some way. And I didn't know, how to help him make friends. And so when we got into this parent participation co-op, it was amazing. But after the first session, he brought home a phone list. And when I was looking at the names on the phone list, this one woman's name literally flew off the page at me. I'd never had an experience like that before. But her name grew 1,000 times and came into my face. Joanne Ellinger. Hey, Joe. And I said, who's that? And he said, oh, just some bitch. I was like, what? Why is she a bitch? He said, I saw her in an AA meeting. He was in AA at that time. I saw her at an AA meeting the other day, and she totally blew me off. And that was the core of the beginning of their relationship. And it would kind of always be like that forevermore, where he was always irritated by her. Well, 2 weeks later, Joanne called me out of the blue. I was sitting in my office, probably pumping, as I did so much that first year. And she invited me to a play date. And I thought, oh my God, that woman whose name jumped off the page at me is now calling me. This is crazy. And I said, I'm not the at-home parent, but my husband is. And he saw you the other night and she said, oh my God, I'm going to reach right out to him and we'll get together. And I said, great. And when I finally met her, wow, was she ever compelling to me? She seemed so outgoing and vivacious and able to make friends and socially adept. But there was one piece that was really difficult for me. And that was that every time we were together, she would talk about God. I mean, like every time. And every time she said the word God, my stomach would twist in a knot. Ooh, why does she keep talking about God? It's very difficult for me to hear her talk about God because I had this really challenging relationship with God because I was told that God was for stupid people and I was smart. And I was told that I didn't need God, that I could rely on myself. And yet here I was drowning under the weight of relying on myself. And here she was talking about God and she seemed really happy. And so I leaned in and I listened more instead of pushing away, which is what I wanted to do in some parts of me. I leaned in and I said, okay, tell me more. Because remember, I was also looking for a church. And she guided me right there to Agape International Spiritual Center. The first moment I walked in and heard Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith sharing the word, and I heard the Agape choir singing the songs.
Listen, don't look for your dreams to come true. Become true to your dreams. If you don't do you, you won't be done. I didn't know the grace of God.
And the moment I walked in and heard the Rev and saw the paintings and heard the music, I felt home. I'd found home. That was the church I had been looking for. What? Whoa. That blew me away. I had been guided there. And I was getting a message while being there that I was not alone. No matter how lonely I was not alone. God had my back. God wasn't what I thought it was. God wasn't a man in the sky judging me. God wasn't a savior in the way that I had been taught that could also be a punisher. I didn't need to be rescued by God, and yet God had my back. What was God? God, I was learning, was the infinite intelligence that governed the universe. God is all around us, guiding us. I am God. God is living through me. I am a piece of God. Wait, what? Okay. Whoa. Shut the front door. Thank you, Irene. If you're listening, thank you for that one. I just love that saying now so much. Shut the front door. I'm not alone. I'm part of something bigger. I'm being guided by this infinite intelligence that governs the universe. God is living through me. I am an expression of God. Wow. But it all made sense. It all made sense. The part of me that felt separate from that could relax into the knowing that that actually was true because I could feel it. And at that time, I didn't feel much. I lived in my head from the neck up, really almost completely numb, from the neck down, other than sex and babies, I felt in my body when I had sex or babies. But other than that, my body wasn't an instrument tuned to feeling. I had learned to numb out because feeling had just been too much. But when I walked into Agape, I felt something. When I heard Reverend Michael speak the word, I felt something. When I sang the songs, I felt something. I began to feel. And as I felt, I began to know what was true because I could feel it. And it would take me a long time to hone this instrument of feeling, a long time to know what can I actually trust? Because growing up, I was taught not to trust what I felt. What I felt was laughed at. What I felt was made wrong. What I felt was belittled because my parents and the people around me couldn't handle it. It was too much for them. They needed to stay numb, stay blind. You know, they say ignorance is bliss. They needed to stay ignorant to survive. They needed to stay blind to what I was seeing to survive. They needed to stay numbed out to survive. It makes sense. But I was very sensitive. I came to believe I wasn't sensitive. I came to put on a hard shell, an armor that kept my sensitivity safe. Agape began to thaw that armor. But it was just a beginning. There'd be many layers of awakening that would be necessary for me to begin to be able to trust myself, to be able to listen to the guidance and trust the guidance that I was receiving. And the first layer of awakening, the first level of listening, even though I was starting to be able to feel in my body, it wasn't really safe to feel in my body. It wasn't really safe to feel my heart. I could go to Agape and feel it there, but then go home and I'd need to put the shield back up because I had made some choices that didn't feel safe. I had married somebody just like my dad, an addict and an alcoholic who cared so much about what people thought that he would tiptoe around, walking on eggshells, deep codependent and addictive patterns that he inherited as well. And it wasn't safe to really feel. But I could begin to learn and awaken to the power of my mind to create my reality. And I could begin to learn and trust my mind first, because clearly I had a very powerful mind. I mean, you know, I graduated first in my class from Georgetown Law as my mind kept reminding me, Alexis, you're smart. Alexis, your mind did this. We did this. Your mind is powerful. Do not collapse. Stand up. Create your reality. You've got this. And I began to practice with it. I began to practice using the power of my mind to create reality. Okay, well, some part of me didn't believe it, but another part of me did. And I didn't even know that there were multiple parts inside of me. Today, parts work, internal family systems is a known thing. Back then, it was not. So the inner conflicts that we all deal with, we have tools now. I wouldn't come to learn about parts work for probably another 10 years after this time I'm telling you about. This was early days, 2001, 2002. And I said, okay, well, maybe I can bring this power of my mind to my work, because I'm freaking out that I made a really bad choice. I'm commuting an hour each way in LA traffic, leaving my daughter and my husband sleeping in the bed, and it's breaking my heart. And he calls me crying. Well, she's crying. He's crying inside. And I'm making all of this money, but I'm not keeping any of it. I've got this 6-figure paycheck coming in, and yet after taxes and insurance and my husband's daily coffees and our mortgage and funding the retirement account, there's like nothing left. And I still feel so poor and so broke and so stingy and driven by so much scarcity. And it's so tight inside of me. And I hate the life that I've created. What the fuck am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? That thought would run through my head. I would later come to realize that that was a thought that my mom thought frequently throughout her pregnancy with me. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? It was an inherited thought. And by the way, I didn't hear that from my mom. I heard it in an NLP healing session when I tapped back into myself in the womb and learned to listen to what I was hearing then. And I began to take back control of the thoughts that were running my mind. And instead of thinking and just staying stuck in the mantra of, what are we going to do? What the fuck? Oh my God, I made a bad choice. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I began to realize that I could take that energy that was in what I now understand to be a downward spiral of confusion and uncertainty, and I could spin it the other way. Just full stop and turn it the other way. So instead of, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? And write it down, write it down, write it down, write it down. Because if you don't write it down, you're going to forget. If you don't write it down, the downward spiral is going to overtake you. Write it down. And I did. I filled journals, writing down what I wanted. It all seemed so far away. But it began to become clear, at least. It wasn't just trapped in my own mind in this swirl of chaos. It began to become clear what I wanted. I didn't know how I was going to create it, but I began to learn that it didn't matter. I didn't need to know how. I just needed to start with what. What? Simon Sinek says start with why. Nope. Start with what. What do you want? It doesn't matter why. The why can come later, and it is an important piece, of course. But it's got to be in right relationship to what. What do you want? Write it down. Begin to learn to trust your desires. If you desire it, you are being given all of the resources you need in order to have it. You don't have a desire without the path to getting there. And no matter how far you are from it right now, I was really far. But what I wanted, well, the first thing that I wanted was a house by the beach, like steps from the beach. We only lived 1.5 miles away, but it was far enough away that we didn't get there very often. And if I was going to live in a beach town, Redondo Beach, then I wanted to live right by the beach. And that seemed crazy. We bought a house. It was a cute house, so cute. Wanted to live by the beach. So I decided to say, okay, well, what would need to be true? What would need to be true for us to live by the beach? Well, we would have to find a house for rent that would have 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, washer, dryer, wood floors, within 3 houses or 4 houses from the beach on a walk street. There's only like 5 or maybe 10 walk streets in Hermosa. Have to be on a walk street. And it has to be $2,500 a month or less. Do you see how specific I got? And if I found a house that met that criteria, then we could move and we would rent out our house. Well, lo and behold, right after getting that clear and writing it down, not just that clear in my head, and writing it down, holy moly, it showed up. The house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, fronting on a walk street, 4 houses from the beach, washer, dryer, parking, wood floors. What? Oh my God. I did it. I did it. I did it. My mind created that. Now, of course, that had always been there, but I wasn't open to it because I wasn't clear that I wanted it. And once I became clear that I wanted it, it showed up. I awakened to the power of my mind, to listening to what I wanted and allowing what I wanted to guide me. And again and again and again, I got to practice that, and it worked. Okay, if it can work for a house, what about for my work situation? Because I'm really not happy at work, commuting. What about that? How can I put this into action? Well, what would it take to make this the best situation it can possibly be? I wasn't ready yet to think about the possibility that I wanted to be my own boss or an entrepreneur. I didn't even know, right? So much of this is we've got to get access to people who have bigger visions than we do so that we can see and become aware of more possibilities. We can only desire what we see or what we know exists. So the best I could do at that point was to desire to take on my own clients. I knew that existed. I knew it existed that I could be at this law firm and I could take on my own clients and I could start serving them with the estate planning services that I was doing for the partners at the firm, but for my own clients, not just for the partners at the firm, not just for the clients already coming to the firm for the corporate and tax matters, but my own clients. Okay, what would that look like? Well, that would look like that I was doing estate planning for my own clients and I was doing nonprofit work for nonprofit communities. That's what I would want to do. Okay, that's the what. Once I'm clear on the what, I could get into the how. What's the next step? What's the first step towards that what? I needed to talk to the law firm partners that I worked with to make sure that they would allow me to do that. Because it's not the norm that an associate would be taking on their own clients. So I needed to check in with the law firm partners. And that was scary because they could have said no. Maybe they should have said no. The liability that I was bringing to the firm probably wasn't worth the risk, but they really wanted me there. And they knew that in order to keep me, they'd need to say yes. And they did. They said, okay, as long as you run conflicts checks and there's no conflicts with any other of the cases we're handling at the firm, you can take on nonprofit work and you can take on your own personal estate planning clients within the context of the firm. And so then I needed to go out and get clients. So I went to a mixer at the Manhattan Beach Women in Business Chamber of Commerce meeting, and I took out a little ad in the publication with my business card stuck in there. This is a big deal moment. And at that event, I heard a woman speaking. And oftentimes guidance has come to me through other people. You know, they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And in this case, Rofer Shafer was there speaking about branding. I didn't hear a word she said about branding. What I heard is that she worked from home. She had her own business. She loved her clients. She was there when her son got home from school every day. And I thought to myself, what? I want that. Full clarity. I want that. I want to work from home. I want to have my own business. I want to be there when my kids get home from school. I want to love my clients. I had no idea how that was going to happen. I had gone to law school because I didn't want to be in business for myself because my dad had made that look really bad. Insecure, unstable. But then when she said it, I knew I wanted it. And so I bought her book, Seeking Answers, not answers to branding, but answers to how she had created that. And in the acknowledgments section, which I almost always read first when I read a memoir, in the acknowledgments section, she thanked a coach. A coach. What's a coach? Back then in 2001-2 timeframe, coaching, it wasn't really a thing. And the part of my mind that had motivated me to graduate first in my class said to me, coach, how's a coach going to help you? You are way too smart. You graduated first in your class from Georgetown Law. Remember, that was like a huge thing that my mind always wanted me to remember because sometimes I could forget. And that thought almost kept me from hiring this coach. That coach isn't going to be smarter than you are. Well, no, not in the graduate first in your class kind of way, but in the really love your life kind of way. I mean, this woman loves her life. You don't love your life. Maybe you should consider hiring this coach. So I called her. She lived in Atlanta. I lived in LA. I called her and said, okay, Mariette, her name is Mariette, tell me about this coaching thing. And she said, well, you pay me monthly. Looking back now, it was so cheap, but at the time, it was far out of reach, hundreds of dollars a month. I'd never, ever, 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 ever spent hundreds of dollars a month on myself, on my kids, on my husband, on school, on a lot of things, of course, our house, but certainly not on myself. And that's what it felt like. I was going to be spending that on myself. And yet, again, a greater part of myself knew, no, you need to do this. You need to do it. She has answers. She's going to help you make the investment. But we don't have enough money. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You can do it. I learned to listen and have the courage to act. And so I did. I made the investment. And on our very first call, she started asking me, when's the last time you got a haircut? When's the last time you went to the dentist? When's the last time you went to the gym? When's the last time you got a pedicure? And I freaked out. What the fuck? I'm paying you hundreds of dollars a month to ask me about my personal hygiene habits. And by the way, never. I don't get pedicures. I got one at my wedding, but that was like my wedding day. I don't go to the dentist unless there's an emergency. Duh. Haircuts? I don't need a haircut. And the gym? Who has time for the gym? I have a toddler at home and my husband is staying at home and there's no way that I have time for the gym. Our commuting an hour each way in LA traffic, I'm already gone for 12 hours a day. What are you talking about? I thought this woman's crazy. And I'm paying you hundreds of dollars a month to ask me about my personal hygiene. Oh my God. I made a bad decision. And she said to me and helped me to realize probably one of the most important lessons that I've ever received in my life. And if you haven't received it yet, here it is now for you. She said, Alexis, if you are not engaging in self-care, you are never going to be happy. It doesn't matter what you choose to do in your work. If you are not taking care of yourself first, you will never be happy. Now, I would come later to learn that self-care is far more than pedicures and haircuts, but it is a great place to start. I wasn't ready for what self-care really is. We'll do a full episode on that in the future, or more than one probably. What really is self-care? Back then, self-care was going to the dentist. And wow, I actually needed some pretty significant dental work that could have become a real problem if I hadn't caught it then. Back then, self-care meant getting a haircut and getting a pedicure and going to the gym. And yeah, I found time to go to the gym. I woke up an hour earlier, which didn't matter to my daughter and husband because they were sleeping anyway. And the cool part was I missed LA traffic. That was great. So instead of sitting in traffic at, 8:30 in the morning or 8 in the morning, I was driving at 6 in the morning. 6:30 in the morning. And it was actually quite a beautiful drive. And I would go to the LA Athletic Club and swim or work out. And it felt good. Whoa. Working out feels good. Being in my body feels good. And like, side bonus, I got to see all these women in the locker room with this wide range of body types. Lots of old Asian women. I'd never seen old women's bodies really before, other than my grandma's. I got to see women comfortable in their bodies, all sizes and all types, naked in the locker room. I'd never had that experience before, and it was life-altering for me. Whoa. I could feel good in my body, even if it didn't look like the thing that my mom and her friends liked and wanted and were working so hard to have. There's other body types and forms, and I can relax and actually learn to love my body as it is and create health and strength instead of focusing on the beauty, the magazine beauty. Okay, this was life-altering. I didn't learn this until after, I was late 20s. I was a mom. I hope that all of our children learn this sooner than I did by seeing a full range of naked bodies when they're little and not having to wait until they're adults. It's changing now. It's different now. But back then, that was a big deal for me. Big deal. And yeah, I began to feel good in my body through movement. That had not been something that had ever felt good to me before. Exercise and sports and being in my body was not something I was happy about when I was a kid. Always trying to get out of it. I do remember liking soccer at one point until, can't remember if it was an arm or a leg. Anyway, something broke, or I thought was broken. I don't think it broke. I never actually broke any bones, but got hurt. And then I never wanted to do it again. Riding my bike. I loved riding my bike until I fell and got a lot of road rash. So being in my body wasn't something that I was used to feeling really good. And that began to change. I was glad that I'd listened and acted. And then the big moment came when I really learned to listen. And I'm going to end this episode with that story. And I was driving to work. Beautiful, beautiful day. And I was kind of marveling at how beautiful of a day it was. And the sun was coming up over the horizon, over the highway. And all of a sudden, the car in front of me swerved. And there, looming in front of my car, I'm in this little Volkswagen GTI. There, right in front of my car, was this massive roll of carpet in the middle of the road. And I had one of two choices. I could either hit the roll of carpet head on, or I could try to swerve like the car in front of me had. And so I tried to swerve. And all of a sudden, I'm spinning across the highway. And I hear this loud voice in my head that says, turn into the spin, turn into the spin. And so I turn into the spin and I turn into the spin and I get control of the car and I come to a screeching halt up against the median, facing the wrong way. And I get out of my car to look and see if there's any damage. And I hear the voice again and it says, get into the car and move now. And I get into the car and I move. And literally seconds later, right where I had been standing, another car comes spinning across the highway and slams into the median head first. And I run over to the car, literally right where I had been standing. Had I not listened to the voice, I would have been killed by that car. And I run over to the car and I see a woman in the car and a child in the back seat. And I make sure that they are okay and that others are there to help them. And the ambulance comes. And as I walk away, I realize that for the first time in my life, that voice, the voice that had always been there, that had always been trying to get my attention, that had always been trying to help me, had saved my life. And I began to have a new relationship with that voice and realized that that voice was not out to get me. That voice didn't want to hurt me. It had always been trying to help me. And I began to listen to that voice in a different way. Oh, hello. I'm not alone. You're here with me. You're here with me. You're guiding me. You want to help me. We're in this together. Okay. I need to learn to listen better. So you don't have to yell. So you don't have to be mean to me. So you don't need to place me in harrowing situations so that you can get my attention. I'm listening. Show me the way. Show me the way. Show me the way. And that would become my prayer. Now, truth be told, I didn't get that great at listening without being put in harrowing situations or being brought to my knees in despair. It would take a lot of years for me to learn how to listen. I'm a 1-3 in human design. Although apparently, according to the most recent human design reading I've had, I am in this very moment, in fact, perhaps even on this very day, in the midst of a huge shift. Chiron return, which means that I don't have to be brought to a place of despair to listen anymore, which means I don't have to make all the same mistakes. I don't have to learn through making the mistakes. I've learned to ask for guidance without being brought to the edge of death or despair. Show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. And so I want to leave you at the end of this episode so that I can go pack to get ready for this trip to Egypt with that prayer that you can use at any time. You don't have to be at death's door. You don't have to be at the depths of despair. You are not alone. You are being guided. Ask for help and support, and you will be shown the way. My prayer is, show me the way, show me the way, show me the way, show me what I cannot see, show me what is here for me, show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. And every single time, the answers have come. Every single time. I've been shown the way. I've been guided into my own business, into figuring out how to build that business into $1 million business, which what? I didn't have any business experience. I had a law degree, but I never wanted to go into business for myself. I'm being guided step by step exactly what to do. You can read the details of it in the New Law Business Model book if you want to dive into that journey before I'm ready to share it here. The book is called New Law Business Model Revealed. It's really good, just not just for lawyers, by the way. It happens to be focused on lawyers because that is what my business focuses on, but it is spot on for anybody who's in any sort of a service-based business. And so much of what I've learned in business, I took from other businesses and applied to my own. Doctors and dentists and ophthalmologists and massage therapists and carpet cleaners, and took what I was learning from them, the best of what I learned, and applied it in my own business. So you can read the New Law Business Model Revealed book if you want to learn about that journey from 0 to $1 million. show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. When the student is ready, the teacher appears, and time and again that happened. To writing my best-selling book, to appearing on TV as a family, financial, and legal expert, to letting go of all of it. After building a second $1 million business, to making over $1 million worth of mistakes in those businesses and learning from them, and then creating training programs from what I learned. Saying, forget it, I don't want to be in business, moving to a farm, filing bankruptcy through a great deal of resistance, but doing it in a way that actually allowed me to keep what I'd built. Because I did it smart. I did it very smart. And I'll share about that in a future episode. To coming back into the world with a renewed purpose. To building what I have today and being here with you now. Through multiple name changes and through more and more clarity about who I am, why I'm here, and what's mine to do. Part of which is this. Part of which is to share my story with you in a way that gives you the guideposts, the breadcrumbs that I did have through Neale Donald Walsch sharing his story, through others that I wished would share more of their own backstory. And that's why I'm here with you today. So I leave you with that prayer. I leave you with the vision of clarity for yourself, the more and more knowing who you are, why you're here, and what is yours to do, to remembering that you are guided, to knowing that you are here to learn, to listen and act, to have the courage. And with the assurance of knowing that Amanda and I are here to walk by your side as much as we possibly can by sharing our own stories and then helping you to really have the clarity that means you're in the upward spiral. And I'm going to be sharing a lot more about this spiral path that I've discovered that we're all on, so that you can, if you are in a downward spiral of confusion or uncertainty, that you can just stop the spin and turn it around. And it doesn't mean not feeling despair, and it doesn't mean not feeling devastation. In fact, sometimes the clarity is to let yourself go all the way there, because you got to feel it to heal it. We're going to be talking about what that means too. And I'm going to walk you through it all. What happened after I hired that coach, after that accident, after I decided to start my own business, how I ended up getting divorced. That was a big thing. How I ended up being able to leap from my one-to-one service-based law practice, where I needed to go into my office only 2 to 3 days a week, but still needed to go into my office, to a completely online business, which I had dreamed about when before I had even given birth. I thought, oh my God, if I could just figure out how to spend all day on the internet and make a living that way, how amazing would that be? Life guided me to that. And then ultimately, how I got here. So I'm going to share it all with you. Future episodes. For now, I need to go pack, leaving for Egypt, taking my kids with me, going on a daybreaker trip, 200 people. I think I've already mentioned it before. I'm super terrified, but it is being guided. I'm going because I'm guided, even though I'm really afraid, even though it's causing me to have the opportunity to feel the pains of my childhood, where I was rejected by the cool kids, where I was outcast by the people that I perceived to have more than me. I believe we get to revisit every pain that we ever had as a child, or even in past lives that we didn't have the tools to experience, through our now adult selves, so that we can do it differently, so that we can revision what happened, so that we can heal. And this trip is certainly that for me. Plus, I haven't done a lot of travel with my kids. They've traveled to Vietnam and Thailand with their dad, and I've not. gotten to travel with them like this because I've always been working so much. And so I'm taking them to Egypt. We're doing it together. And even though I'm really afraid, and even though I don't know what's going to happen, it's a lot like other times when this has been the case where I have felt this in my being and in my body, like, oh my God, I'm really scared. And life is guiding me to do this. So I'll be back with you on the other side and let you know exactly what I learned while I was there. I might even make an episode from there. We'll see if that occurs. And in the meantime, binge the other episodes that are here. Amanda and I have created some great things for you. And I look forward to being back here with you again next time. This is Ali Katz. Bye-bye for now.
If you enjoy the Guided podcast, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And be sure to come back next week. Until then, this is Ali Katz and
Amanda Goolsby.
And remember, life knows.